1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Here's some more of the Tiki story. Daona laughed a little bit. Well, of course, it's supposed to be. It's supposed to get your attention. Well, it sure did that all right, he muttered bitterly as he stared, beaten down at his motionless paintbrush in his hand. It's supposed to make you think. About what? Tiki asked. About how... His voice squeaked then a bit, startling him. Horrible it is to be that girl? Daona shrugged. I don't know. He laughed a little. Make you think not to drink and drive, I guess. Again, he laughed playfully. Yeah, this really shows you how some people, it's like, they just look at whatever and they don't even give a fuck, you know? I remember running into this a lot in real life, which is probably why I put in the story. And still encounter it now, actually. Like, I know some people who can do so many drugs and never freak out. And I'm just like, how? How do you do that? Even, like, too much caffeine will make me freak out. Like, 3, 4 hits of weed will make me freak out. And some people are just doing, like, massive, like, bong rips, drinking all this alcohol, drinking, like, alcohol coffee. Then this one girl was telling me she drank, like, 12 cups of coffee a day, and she's totally fine. I'm like, how does your heart take it? How do you fucking live like that? Anyway, whatever. Tiki was quiet. He didn't even let his eyes off, let his eyes off the ground. They didn't have to show that. Oh, so what? It happened, so why not? Again, stronger than before, Tiki felt his throat bubble up with vomit, but pushed it down. Jesus, that was horrible. He didn't think he could overcome it if he had to repeat it. Goddamn Daona. Didn't he have any other way of wording it? To put it that way was just brutality. They shouldn't show it, he muttered quietly, but fixedly as the white on his paintbrush dripped. Why not? It's good to see upsetting stuff. It keeps the world from being cotton candy. Probably have heard somebody say that in real life. Tiki was silent. Daona, you idiot. You absolute idiot. His best friend. His deepest friend since kindergarten. But what an idiot. I don't think it does that. Like, oh yeah? Why do you say that? I'm trying to tell you. Like, well, I saw that same ad on the bus stop, and people were watching, and they didn't seem upset at all. This one old girl just went back to reading her handheld, and these other 2 guys just watched it replay. Where is it? Twice eating their hot dogs. Daona stared at him, taken back. His dark eyes were shining with surprise, and he looked on the verge of laughing. But he tied it back. Jesus, Tiki, are you actually worked up? Idiot. Yes, Tiki urged, quietly, though, in case anyone running in the field beyond the bleachers could hear his shouting. Yes, God, how could that just be something they show out in public? To everyone. If we ain't seen it in person, then we're lucky, he went on. Why would they want to take that luck away? Why do they want to make it seem so miserable to be... Daona couldn't help it then. He burst out laughing. Then in a heartbeat covered up his mouth with his hand. Tiki was his friend. He didn't want to put him down. But it was too late. Tiki had been staring at the backs of the bleachers the whole time, or staring blankly past them. But now, the stung glare Tiki put on Daona, when he turned his head and looked at him, told it all. You're not supposed to actually get upset, Daona urged. You're not supposed to keep thinking about it. Just accept it. I can't. Daona's eyes squinted and his head tilted. Can't? What do you mean, can't? Of course you can. The only people who can't are... His eyes widened a moment, and he hushed his voice dramatically. Ooh, Tiki, are you sensitive? He laughed quickly, briefly. Holy, my friend has a sensitivity handicap. I knew it! Tiki's eyes went alert, too, but in his case, he was flushed with fear. He put up his hands as a jerky reflex, as if to grab Daona, though there was no reason to. Daona, be quiet. Jesus Christ, no I'm not. Don't say that. Are you trying to get me arrested? Geez, come on, Tiki. I'm only joking. Chill out. They, together, for a moment, were tense and quiet, not knowing what to do with one another. But are you? Daona whispered. Or do you think you are? No, was Tiki's quick, automatic answer. I'm not. I just really hate that ad. Hate, huh? Daona gave a little chuckle. Maybe you ought to get a handicap code for anger. But it was clear that Tiki wasn't in the mood to joke. Daona eyed him a moment. Tiki saw him from the corner of his own vision, watching, like one of the many extinct birds of prey eyeing an ancient, wild, ground-dwelling animal, like a hare. One of those dangerous scenarios recreated on a historical nature show. Sure? Yes. There was quiet. Tiki's heart beat hard. But then, Daona grinned. He shrugged it off, all forgotten. Let's get back to work, before they withhold our pay. The flashback melted away, and Tiki's eyes once again saw the road before him, instead of what was in his mind. He was getting close, he realized. Ahead of him he could see the huge, round dome of City Hall's roof rising up above the roads and buildings. He sped past a billboard with a baby blue border, and the commercial caught his eye for just a moment. Despite his promise to not let himself glimpse any of them, he glanced just as the ending words were flashing. So exact and safe, no need for a helmet. Hey, he thought to himself, that's my scooter. But the flashback wasn't done with him yet, and he molded over now some more. Of all the times that Daona recycled his old joke, Tiki had never felt like that about it before. Never felt so hunted. As if he knew about Tiki almost running himself off the road. That was days ago, but it still made him shiver. It was no joke. If the law thought he was so sensitive that he couldn't even drive under the presence of that ad, then who knew what they might do with him? They'll never know, though. That was the only thing he could remind himself of for comfort. There were hundreds of millions of people living in this city. They'd never pick him out, unless he was reported, and Daona wouldn't. There were two kinds of people, in freshman year of high school, before studies could even begin. They all had to choose. Would they belong to the business sect and follow a life path of store work, or banking, advertising, or building, or the like? Or would they belong to the human sect and go into the police force, the military, the schools, the mental reprogramming facilities? Tiki felt lucky. He and Daona were in the business sect, because at their age, members of the human sect were fully trained to detect any irregularities in their peers. Daona would have had him reported to the law and taken to be reprogrammed before he even had enough time to blink. That's pretty fucking hardcore. He didn't care if 60% of the population had some kind of problem programmed out of them at some point in their lives. There were different levels of intensity. Tiki would not want to wind up there. High school taught everyone that secrets were fine, but not between close friends. Keeping secrets was a sign of a problem, but Tiki didn't care. If it was a problem, he would be glad never to fix it, and that in itself was another secret. After talking with Daona, according to high school, he should feel better, but he felt worse as the words they'd exchanged repeated themselves tiresomely in his head. He made sure his curtains were shut, curled on his bed, and turned on some music and cried. Never cried since he was 5 years old. Good Lord. He really was crazy, maybe, to use the old-fashioned term. High school taught that it was normal for young people to seek out sadness at times. It was one of those uncontrollable urges, like the urge for sex, that just must be satisfied. But to go so far as to cry, that was not right. That was a sign of lower brain capacity, like a girl. Ooh, so sexist. Girls cried, and they were also separated at the start of middle school from the people. Oh, that's fucked up. They went off to female school to learn how to be good to their parents and future masters. There was no need for people to cry in a civilized modern society. But once he started to cry, it was as if he had submerged in a shower. He really didn't want to get out. He'd never tell anyone that, not ever. Suddenly, almost as if out of nowhere, the City Hall building appeared before him, towering massively over the street. If the sun was behind it instead of in front, The shops across the wide street would be smothered in shadow. Already they were dwarfed to minute proportions in the presence of this huge white structure. Tiki slammed on his brakes. He had plenty enough room to slow, but the road had already opened up before him. The massive sight of City Hall was enough to make him worry that he'd crash into the side and be annihilated before, even from several yards away. With a rough yowl, the tires came to a grinding halt, and Tiki skidded haphazardly to a stop alongside the curb. His body bobbed with the shockwave from the scooter, used to absorbing the impact. The boy swung his legs over and hopped off, only a block and a half from the main entrance of City Hall. And rapidly he stole a glance at the clock in his scooter handlebars. 8:27. He hadn't missed it. He was still in the clear. Tiki... Oh shit, what was that? Let me readjust myself. Tiki practically ran, his hair a feathery mess behind him, to the nearest parking section. Everything was already full, of course. Cars choked every parking space, and motorbikes and scooters like his own were squeezed in between like frozen strips of vegetables. Hardly an inch for a car owner to open their door without hitting something. That's fucking accurate. Well, I don't know. He gave a rapid glance around and then, throwing caution to the wind and wishing on his good luck, so many vehicles and not too many, well, not as many, police, so maybe he would be overlooked. It had worked before. Wait, what did he do right now? Blah, 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 blah. So he just parked his scooter on the curb, I guess. Yeah, he left the scooter on the curb of the sidewalk, just beside the meter. That meter, an antique that now only showed time and advertisements. To think that at one time, that was how people paid their parking. Oh, this is a whole different story. Let me see if there's any more left. That might be all there was of the Tiki story. 'Cause this is fucking... This, I think, is Super Babies. I think, something like that. Yeah, this is a whole other story now. Interesting. Interesting. I'll have to read that one next time. Alright, so... Like many of my stories, the Tiki story does not have any fucking ending. It just abruptly ends at some point, you know? But I thought it was pretty interesting, you know? Yeah. A horrible fucking future world. Apparently it's a little bit, whatchamacallit, a little bit of a Handmaid's Tale in there with this fucking, they think women, they think girls have fucking lower brain capacity or whatever the fuck that was all about. I guess only the guys are allowed to work or whatever, and, yeah, they're not supposed to, take anything seriously, emotionally, or whatever, so, I don't know. I think the handicap thing is kind of interesting. It's like, if you have anything the system doesn't like, they call it like a handicap. And they like mark it on you. Like, oh, you have a handicap of caring too much about this, or having too much anxiety about that. And, you know, getting mad when somebody fucks it with you, you know, or whatever. So, I like that story. That one was pretty good. I can't remember if that was like during college or after college. Something like that. But yeah. Alright. I'll come back next time. Made a lot of videos today, so being fucking productive. Goodbye, everybody. I'm gonna get out of this hot ass wig now. I feel sticky, man. I totally relate to this motherfucker Tiki, even though he's apparently living in a cold city and it's very hot right now. But as far as the whole like sticky, like you feel your fingers are all swollen. Actually, I used to have that more. I used to have that issue more, which is obviously why I put it in the story. About like, yeah, waking up with your fingers being really swollen and shit like that. Not so much anymore. But just as far as like, yeah, being really sticky, feeling like you're just sweating all the time and just like, just feeling gross. Yeah, anyways, goodbye, goodbye, see you later.